Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Getting Things Done podcast from Vital Learning. I am, as always, Morten and as always, I'm here with my good friend and colleague Lars Roskil Hendriksen. Привет, Lars!
Привет, Morten. Good to see you as always, and good to be with our listeners out there. We always start off with a quick reminder of the purpose of this podcast, which is to help you learn GTD or become even better GTD'ers. So we hope that today's episode supports you in that. If you're new to GTD, we always recommend you go back and listen to episodes 1 through 6 to get an introduction to the basics of GTD, the 5 steps. Today's episode number is number 95, and today's episode is titled Long-Term Planning.
Yes, and in the pre-show we talked about this, and we tried to hash out what could that mean, and we've landed on two horizons, if you may, two perspectives of this is medium long-term to medium to long-term planning, and really long-term planning. So what do we mean with planning? How would you define planning in Getting Things Done, Lars?
Well, for me, it's to play around with time, to imagine things and come up with things. And let's say we're now in 2028. What does the world look like? Or 2024, what does the world look like? What do I want the world to look like? What do I think might happen? What would be cool to have happened? Just give yourself the time to sit down and reflect, I think, based on those different time frames or different milestones in your life. I think that might be a starting point for me. What would you say, Morten?
Me as well, and I'm inspired by what you're saying now. That what would I imagine the world to be, or what would I like it to become? Which is exactly planning is to trying to. If we are not able to control the future. That is not possible. we are in control of very little things in our lives, unfortunately. But we can try and move things forward in the direction that we want. And that's what I put in planning. If you now go to we talked about medium range planning first, and what I've written down for this is like 0 to 6 months. So this is released in August. So how are you going to use the rest of the year, and maybe the first of months of the coming year? So the way that I would look at this is more like getting an overview of what I've already committed to. So what I would do is have a good and long stare at your calendar and reflect on how does that look? Do I have something coming up? Like it will be Christmas, maybe Christmas vacation, maybe you have some events you have to prepare for before that and after. We plan and we look at the fall now. Here in Norway I have several events that I have to do, like seminars and keynote speeches and coachings that's been planned. Is there anything that I have to prepare or look at in that perspective of time, both my professional and personal life? What would your medium range planning, how would that look for you, Lars?
Yeah, for me, if you maybe switch to a more work kind of focus, I think the key for me was to really sit down and think through the bigger projects that I want to have happen. There are always projects ongoing, so there'll be some things that are happening right now that we have started that we're looking to finish. So that's one perspective. The calendar is certainly an important tool in that way as well. And then looking towards the future, slightly not long term, but just what would we like to have happen, like you said, within the next 6 months, or maybe in 12 months for me. Where would we want the company to be, for example? So that's one of the things that we spent some time doing in June, meeting up with the partners in Nordic Plus, Nordics Plus, and also spending time with Cecilia, my wife, in the company as well, thinking about where we want to go for the next 12 months with the company. And that really inspired a lot of interesting thoughts and ideas. Some things I already know are going to happen. Actually, as of this recording, I should also be certified in crucial conversations for accountability, for example. That was a goal that was set a while back. So that was a goal that was set a while back. And now that's on the projects list as we record this, and hopefully something that I can check off when we release this episode. But really sitting down and thinking towards the future. So what would be really cool if we were able to make this happen within the next hopefully 6 months? I think would be a good time frame. Even though we often think further ahead in those scenarios, we tend to, I think it was Tim Ferriss that I heard it from, at least, that said that we tend to overestimate what we can do in a week and underestimate what we can do in a year. And I really recognize that from the projects that we talk about, that wow, we can make this happen even quicker.
So to pick that up and run with it, how would it look for someone who is fresh to GTD? How would they observe you doing this planning? Let's say that you have an idea for a project that you want to achieve, something you would like to achieve, a desired outcome. Let's say it's October 10, which is, by the way, when we're going to celebrate our 10th birthday.
That did not sound like a sort of random date you just threw out, Morten.
No, it is. It is not. And I just want I just want to spend 1 minute explaining this. We are 10 years, the Whitehall Learning Group is of companies, 10 years that we celebrated the 10 years anniversary date was December last year, but we are celebrating a full year. So we are going to celebrate the World Mental Health Day, the 10th of October at 10 o'clock. We are doing at least one event here in Oslo. I'm not sure if Lars will do something. I don't know, but we are going to do that in Oslo. You will be heartfully welcome to do that. We're going to present what we've done. So it's a interesting, hopefully a very interesting and very different event. We're planning some crazy stuff. But Lars, how would you go about this? Yeah.
No, we just actually touched on that 10-10-10 idea just before we recording this. So the seed has been planted, and we're playing around with what we might be able to come up with. So no, but coming back to those, so what would it look like if people were watching me do this? I think if we zoom out a bit, and when we do this kind of planning for the next, let's say, 12 months, a quick revisit of the higher horizons is a good place for me to start. So what have we set? What are the goals for the year for, by the end of 2024, or however you want to set up that time frame? What have we already defined that we, at least when we wrote that list, thought would be really cool to have happen? Same goes for the vision. Vision is still really so much fun for me to play around with and look at, are we taking steps towards that vision that has, been fairly well defined, I think, for a year now, or maybe even 2 years, which projects would then most easily or most effectively help us to move forward towards those visions. And of course, in the end, making sure that it all aligns with the purpose that we have for the companies. But then you would typically, some things will show up just from that review, and some things, probably more things, will show up from revisiting the areas of focus. So Horizon 2, and really looking into that. And for each of those areas of focus, what would be really cool to have happen? And perhaps in some cases, it's what it is. It's fine. It's good. Everything is working as I want it to be, or that I think is sufficient for the time being. And some places,
hunky-dory.
Many places,
hunky-dory. I think it is called.
Hunky-dory. And in many cases, there will be projects that then arise from reviewing that list. So what would be really cool to have happen by the end of next year? I think for me, the bigger difference now, just for those who have maybe listened for a long time and maybe heard us say something similar to this before, I think the biggest difference for me this year was to notice the the shift in areas of focus. So they are still the same, but the world has changed. So the response needed, or ideal response needed from me or from us, was project A, B, and C. So one thing that has significantly changed is within the last 12 months, we've gone from, just me as a trainer to now being 12 trainers. Part of them, part of that group have joined us from taking over the new franchise. Part of the group has been certified within the last 12 months. So it's a big difference, and that really sparked some really cool and interesting projects to go on that projects list. For example, more work with the community that we now have. How would you? What will we see you do, Mark?
Well,
or does that make sense what I just said?
It does make a lot of sense. I don't have anything to add, but to suggest that people go back to the episode of Horizons of Focus, so that I can get a kind of we have an episode. Maybe you will make a note to make a link to that.
Horizons of Focus, certainly. That was in one of the, I think, episode in the first 10 episodes, and also areas of focus. We referenced that a number of times. Episode 59. That's on. You can find it in the feed or you can find it on YouTube. We've referenced it so many times now, so it's also, I think, by far that one competing with the Apple Reminders review that we did. Those two episodes are by far the most viewed on YouTube, at least on my channel. So that's why I know episode 59 is the one to go for.
Okay, so now we've made a lot of commercials for episodes that we're not in, so I hope that you can follow us. But my idea is that the natural planning model is something that you want to revoke at any stage of your planning, and we also have episodes of that. Do you remember which one?
10.
Number 10.
I don't know. I'm just making it up.
No,
it sounds very convincing, though, right?
Yeah, you did. No, but I'm sure Lars will make a note of this and put it in the show notes for those 3 episodes. So because they need to be cross-referenced, because we are not going to do another episode of the natural planning model, but the natural planning model is a very good model to make sure that whatever you commit to do of any project or desired outcome is what you've is in adherence with what you want to achieve on the long-term goals. So we talk about making sure that your horizons of focus is in alignment with with whatever you are doing, because in a natural planning model you look at the why before you do anything. So if you have an idea of something you would like to commit to, then ask yourself, why do we want to make this? Why is this important to me or us? And then suggest to you that if it's not important at all, don't do it. Just concentrate on the most important things. And so the why is the first question you would like to ask yourself. And making that connection with your higher why. Why am I on the planet? Why is the company on the planet? So it's you get that connection. Anything you would like to add, Lars?
No, that was actually, as we go through this and walk through how we do the planning, one of the next actions now that you mentioned is actually that I just put on my list. Actually do a natural planning model for one of the key projects that I came up with for the year, something that we have been talking about for a while. Something that we were playing around with. We just visited a possible venue for this, what we for now at least call the GTD Practitioners Retreat. So we had this idea for what was requested by some of the level 3 seminar participants to have a level 4, which does not exist, but to carve out some time to sit down and really work our way through the higher horizons together. So that has now been titled in my system as the GTD Practitioners Retreat. We found that we actually visited a castle yesterday as a possible venue for the retreat, and it was a really inspiring place. And now I'm looking to do a natural planning model, and hopefully that we can set it up as an international event and really, sit down and really think through the higher horizons. So Yeah, coming back to your question, the natural planning model certainly key tool to have in your toolbox when you then define some of these more complex strategic projects.
Yeah, I do agree with you. One of the things I would like us, if you feel this is the right time to do that, is to shift the focus to more long-term planning. So from 6 months from now or 1 year from now up to 5 years. A lot of people say that I meet find it difficult to plan that far ahead. What would you like to say to them?
Well, listen up. No,
listen to Lars.
No, it's obviously it's difficult, and I think that's part of the reason why people hesitate to really open up to these higher horizons and try to unfold what they might have when it comes to ideas in that longer time frame. For me, the key was to get started with areas of focus, because that really gave me sort of a starting point to open up. So what could happen in 1 to 2 years, horizon 3? What could happen in 3 to 5 to 10 to 20 years? Well, that goes to the vision and horizon 4. So for me, just to play around with it and have fun and not try to make scheduled detailed plans, because I think many people, and that would certainly have been myself if I had not come across GTD 15 years ago, I would just have gone with the flow. And if if that's, I think, part of the challenge that I see is that people, successful people may not recognize that they need GTD because they have just been hardworking in their life, and that means that they were promoted and they are now in this fancy position, and they don't need GTD. And I'm so happy that I came across GTD and started to work on the higher horizons, because it gave me an idea to actually try to define where I would like to go. Not saying that I am going to go there, that I will go there. Like you started off saying, we cannot know what will happen. But at least have an idea of where we want to go and try to take steps in that direction. So I would be worried that if you don't go in and define this, then who knows where you end up. If you don't have a goal on where you want to go, it might be a good place.
You will end up somewhere.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Now, one of the things that, or I had a coaching client actually this morning. We were walking through we started creating his Horizons of Focus document together. Wow. And this is of course very fresh as it is in this morning, but I see the same thing. I see a lot of people having the same, I wouldn't call it the problem, but they have, when you start asking them, what is your purpose on this planet? What are your values? And kind of like, and even though we have a very good model that I use to what I call focus Horizons of Focus analysis, which is just a fancy way saying that I'm asking a lot of questions, but asking those questions helps the participant birth their Horizons of Focus. But blank stare is not uncommon, and one of the things I try to keep myself from is coming with suggestions. Just shut up, Morten. Just shut up and let the time work. Because if you sit down with a blank piece of paper and ask yourself, what adjectives would I like my life to be? People describing me as my life to. If my life was successful, what adjectives would people describe me by? And just that little exercise there, and then just see whatever shows up. Adjectives is then words that describe someone or something, like honest, loving, caring, whatever is your suit there. But just to start there and take the time until it's kind of like, yeah, this is what I want. This is, if my life was successful, I would like this. When it's successful, I mean, if my dreams come true. So what do you do, Lars, when you coach people in this? Do you have a specific?
No, but I can certainly recognize that, and I think there is echoing what you said, and also the time. Give it some time to settle. That's also part of the reason why I will do my my own personal longer term planning or revisiting the higher horizons as it will be, will be to sit down for a few hours in the woods of Norway somewhere.
Mhm.
We went up in this
The
this
right
summer.
place to
And,
be
yes,
for this.
I highly recommend that. Um,
Yep.
no, and sit down and give it some time. And I think also, a lot of this will, when I sometimes share the horizons of focus that we have for the company in Denmark, for example, it will feel very detailed and perhaps overwhelming for some people. And I really try to
Mm.
emphasize that this is, many years of detailing and revisiting and iterations on this topic. So it's not something that we can just sit down and define and then we're done. It's something that I will write something on and then I'll go away from and then I'll come back to it.
Yep.
If I check the higher horizons that we have for the company, I think there are 6 or 7 revisions this year that I've made.
Mm.
Just
Yep.
some bigger things, some smaller things, projects that we've come up with, new goals that we've just set now as part of the yearly cycle that we are establishing. So give it time. Is probably what I would add to that. Add some things, let it sit there. Some new things will maybe show up. You'll want to go back and change some things or remove some things. Let it be a free-flowing document. You'll be smarter next week than you are today, hopefully.
Exactly, and not hopefully, but you will be, because it's your brain will then process this in the back of your head the whole time. And one of the things that I'm reminded of that you might want to do if you wanted to create a Horizons of Focus document for you is that to look at it often and make iterations, changes as you go along. My coaching client this morning got that as a homework until our next session, which is in 2 weeks. And then these 2 weeks he will look at this every day, and he will make iterations, changes. He will try and evolve this document to mature it, so it becomes more him. So the only thing that you do when you look at it is just look at it, read through it, and see if it feels good for you. Is there something that you have cognitive dissonance on, that is something that's not absolutely correct? Then create that little correction and change the changes that you need to feel that, this is more correct. No, this is more me.
That makes sense. On that topic, when we visited the castle yesterday, we actually spoke to the owner of that castle and got a tour around. And he mentioned a book called Die with Zero. So I've just bought that on Audible. I have not come across it before. I read about it. It sounds like it makes a lot of sense and actually would be interesting exactly on this topic. You've come across it before, maybe?
I don't know if we are talking about the same book, but I many years ago read a book called Die Empty, which is kind of...
that sounds somewhat similar, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the same idea, but and use your time on Earth well, which is what getting things done is helping you achieve, is to make sure that you are as a person achieve whatever you want to achieve. And if you don't decide what that is, something will happen as you will end up somewhere. Maybe you will not like that place. And that's why getting things done is a good methodology to just find out what's important for you.
Yeah, and what he referenced from the book, because we were talking, it came up in the context of what we were looking to set up, the practitioners retreat, talking about longer term planning, and he referenced this book in the context of that there are some things that you can do at specific points in time in your life. So not trying to schedule them at times when you won't be able to do it. This example was to do the Interrail train trips when you were 20 as opposed to when you were 40 and perhaps had a lot more money and then maybe felt you had the time to do it. You wouldn't be able to do it. You have to do it at the right times throughout your life. So I thought that was an interesting perspective, something that we've been working with for a while now. So that's why it's on my Audible list now.
Yeah, I can fully understand that. And one of the things that I'm reminded of is that I turned 60.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Who knew? This is how it is. It still feels like me, and I'm 18, but a little maybe wiser than when I was physically 18. But one of the things that I've been thinking about, and also with my wife, is we've been talking about what do we want our years that we have left on this planet to be like. What would we like to be, and what would we like to do? And one of the things that we've always been very enjoying together is travel. And we are looking at, you know, I'm 60, when I'm 70, will I feel the same about travel? Probably not. When I'm 80, would I feel the same about travel? Probably not. So we are talking about, okay, we need to travel when we can, because we both love it and we would like to do it. But when you are older, maybe not so healthy, maybe, or maybe you're we don't know the future. So why not live when we can? That's what we've been trying to focus on. So yeah, and I just want to bring us back to one of the aspects we've been alluding to, the areas of focus, which is a part of the higher horizons of focus. Areas of focus are then just above projects and desired outcomes, where you will define what is my areas of focus and accountability at work and at home. And that can be anything, like if you're a manager, you have to manage people, that's your job. Then you can divide that in subsections, like, I don't know, create, what would you call it? One-on-one conversations with the people, so making sure they are happy. That will be then a project under that manager role that you have. If you're a father, you know, then you want to take care of you are responsible for your children, and you're hopefully, if you have a spouse, you're responsible for maintaining that relationship as well. That is areas of focus, personal and professional. And I'm sure I know that you're very well aware of this concept. But one of the things that I've been reminded of that ties into this travel part is that it's an areas of fun. I know David Allen will smile if you listen to this and say that, yes, you need to have areas of fun. We need to have fun in our life. We need to enjoy it, enjoy the sun, enjoy the weather, enjoy life. And one of the really beautiful things with getting things done that, you know, keep me going, keep me coming back, is that I have the freedom to be in the moment. I don't have to worry about the past or you know, feel bad about the past. There are things I could feel bad about in the past, I'm sure, but I'm not focusing there. I'm focusing on the now, and I'm planning for the future to become the future I want. That's why longer term, you know, planning is so important, and the possibility to be just right here, right now with you. I'm doing what I think is the most important thing to do right now, which is a freedom. And the freedom to focus on, maybe next I will go out and smell a flower, or just go out and look at the beautiful weather, which, by the way, look, this is outside right now. So I will go up and enjoy that later. So for those of you who are on video, I showed, sorry, on audio only, I showed a live cam from outside the office. But to have both the freedom and the possibility to plan for having fun. Areas of fun could be whatever interest you have. Make sure that if you want to learn Spanish. If you want to get good at crossbow shooting, then learn crossbow shooting. I don't know what you would like to do with your life, but make sure that you enjoy it. I don't know if you see this, Lars, but a lot of my coaching clients kind of forget themselves. Like they're not in the equation.
I know I did.
Yeah,
as well.
Me too,
before.
partially. Yeah, but when you go to your areas, higher horizons of focus, like the purpose, values, and principles, and then vision for how it looks when you live your purpose, values, and principles, and people forget me. That is so sad. Sometimes I have to remind them, hey, how about you? Are you not important? Are you not? You should be the center of your universe. And people go, no, I can't be that. Yes, you should, because if you can't take care of you, how can you take care of the people around you? What model are you for the people around you if you don't? If you're burning yourself out by focusing on everybody else, and you don't take time for you. So I don't know. Do you see that in your coaching clients sometimes?
Yeah. I think I was reflecting on that when you mentioned it, and I think a good example of this is probably the level 2 seminars when we start to look at areas of focus and accountability, and we show an example of an HR manager on the business side, and people can relate and see how my mind would probably look something like this or that. And then we show the personal one. And I think actually when I reflect on the people that attend the level 2 seminar, it is not the big surprise for them that it might be for some coaching clients, because often when people are coming to a level 2 seminar, they have a good grasp of the basics of getting things done, and they are looking to level up really. So they probably have an idea already that this is perhaps something that they need to do, because when we show that personal example, there's one called hobbies, there's one called recreation, I think, as an area of focus. And people, and yoga and hiking and cycling and whatever it might be for them. Getting those on the radar, because when I've more come across that, is actually, like you said, with coaching clients, that it'll be not news to them, but it'll often be, I will go for my hobbies when I have time. And in many cases, these are people that are really, really busy, very successful. But that also takes time. So that might not give them the time that they were looking to have. One coaching client comes to mind where he had this bike sitting in his garage that he had bought, and it had cost 100,000 kroner in Danish kroner, so like $20,000, a bit less than that, and he had not used it. It was this fancy carbon bike, but it was just sitting there. So it was just such a perfect example of what you just said, that there might be the financial means to make sure that they have all the equipment, but actually spending time and enjoying time and using that might not happen if they don't have their focus on it.
Exactly. And I have some similar examples from my own life, but what I would recommend people to do when you have something, if you have an interest that you haven't been looking at, or if you know that, well, I always wanted to do this, or I always wanted to try that, then write it down as a project. Write it down as an areas of focus first, like having fun, and then define what does having fun look like, and then create projects, decide outcomes for that, and start looking at it. If you're not ready to move on it now, put it on there someday maybe, and then it will maybe mature over time. But if it's only in your head, it's never or very seldom going to happen, because it's not on your radar strongly enough. So make sure that having fun is on your radar, because and this is the, if we are doctors, this is the medicine we would recommend you take. So Dr. Lars, we would make a prescription for having fun, wouldn't we?
That sounds great. Yeah, happy to make that the prescription.
So I don't know. I come to the end of my list, Sarah. Do you, for what I wanted to mention, do you have something you would like to wrap up with?
No, I think that's just the value in those goals, and you've somewhat touched on this when we spoke about it just now, is the changes that will happen in the moment. So it's nice that we do this longer term planning. We certainly recommend it. We certainly do it ourselves. But then what will you do now? So still breaking it down. Some things will be projects, some things will be someday maybe, some things will have specific next actions. And that's what we, let's go back to that. We had a partner meeting in Copenhagen in June. We sat down, we shared ideas and plans for the coming year, and really breaking them down into different projects. And from your perspective on areas of fun, are they inspiring? Absolutely. absolutely. If I look at the list that I shared, I'm excited about several of these. And again, the key word here I think is community, and that's what I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in the next 12 months. What can actually happen there. So I'm absolutely inspired when I look at these lists. And like I said earlier, one was broken down now into a next action to do a natural planning model on that practitioner's retreat. And yeah, it's now is when things start to happen, right? So the longer term planning, absolutely good. What will you do now? I think would be the last step to take.
Indeed, and how cool would that be to be on a castle and just nerd out about getting things done?
Exactly.
Count me in. but this is doing a retreat like this is in both our horizons of focus. It is something that brings both you and I, the greatest joy of life. Except from maybe staying with us for our families and enjoying the time with them, but outside that, then the professional purpose of my life is to help other people master getting things done, and I know that when they do that, their life will change. We see it over and over and over again. If you take this seriously, it will positively change your life to the better. Which is who doesn't want a better life? I do.
Just a reflection on exactly, and just a reflection on that, because that's something that came to my mind more and more in the recent year or years, perhaps, is that our work can. How do I phrase this? That I have so many friends in work. I have friends, and then we meet. But it's just, for me, it was always sort of there's one sphere, and then that's work, and there's one that's me personally. And it's just so interesting to see. There are so many GTD'ers out there that I would love to sit down and have a beer or a cup of coffee or whatever with. So many people that become friends through this, and it's just it's not something that I knew could really happen. I know this may sound silly, and it's kind of off topic, but it's so interesting to me that I thought work was somewhere where you went to do work and then you went home, and this is really so much more than that. This is that people become friends through work. Is just it's just sorry to be ranting about it. It's just an interesting thing for me to reflect on, that this can actually happen in work. That it can be our work,
and we will not have me saying against you more. I will positively say yes, that happens, and it is an important part of my life as well. I'm just reminded that this summer we did the summer camp in Denmark, GTD summer camp, where we had 45 GTD'ers together for a weekend, and people find their tribe. I find my people. I think it was one quote that I saw you wrote somewhere, and this is we hang out with people who are we say that GTD'ers are the nicest people, and we do believe that, because reflected people who want to understand more about themselves and the values of their lives and their families and their work kind of tend to end up more or less in the same nice place. I have very few people I don't like in the GTD community as a total. There are, I think maybe, I can't remember one at the moment. Maybe one if I start thinking really hard, but they are good people, and I'm also thinking that yes, I'm earlier on the ball than you, because I started with getting things done professionally before you. But who many of the people I invited for our wedding in Istanbul those years back, and also. Well, I don't think you were born yet in my life as a GTD'er, or I can't remember, but when I was 10 years ago, I don't think we knew each other. Is that correct? Or
sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, that was also with a lot of GTD'ers, people who I hang out with, people professionally involved in, and it's such a nice, to hang out with people. So creating community in the Getting Things world is important for both you and me, and we have a lot of joy doing that. So that I feel is a part of my life purpose, and I know you feel the same. So.
Yeah,
good.
Exactly. And just
we have to plan for that long-term planning.
Exactly. And great
for having fun.
Great gratefulness, right? Is certainly part of the higher horizons for both of us. And that I would happily sit down and have a cup of coffee with any of the summer camp participants or so many other GTDs out there. So
me too.
Before we end, though, one thing I wanted to share. One request from us and also a question from me. So one thing that I just wanted to share, speaking of the summer camp, please do check the show notes for this episode, because Morten made this really nice short video with some small videos and pictures from the summer camp 2023. If you weren't there, you'll kind of get an idea what it was like to be there. If you were there, you probably miss it by now. So here's your chance to be reminded about what happened. So thanks to you, Morten, for putting that together. There will be a link in the show notes for this episode. Secondly, we wanted to ask a favor of you listeners and viewers out there, because we are slowly approaching our episode number 100, as you can probably figure out, since this is episode number 95. This is a big milestone for us. And we were hoping to make a special episode out of that. And for that, we need your help. We'd really like to hear from you. A quick email, ideally an audio snippet, or even better, a video just with you. Quick message with whatever you'd like to say. Thanks for the podcast. Thanks for episode X. It really helped me do Y. Just a quick thank you or a shout out or whatever it is. We'll try to put something fun together for episode 100. So if you can find the time, you still have some time before we get to episode 100. So be sure to send that to us as quickly as you possibly can. That'd be much appreciated. Or send it podcast@vitallearning.dk.
Yes, podcast@gtdnordic.dk. And
vitallearning.dk.
Again. I'm getting old. That's my excuse. No, what I wanted to make sure that I said is that please don't think that it has to be perfect before you can send a video snippet. It doesn't have to be. Just speak whatever you want to speak. Tell your heart. That's beautiful for us. So very much appreciate if you did that for the episode 100. Just kind of like a greeting, hi from wherever you are in the world, and whatever
perhaps
you
a
want
hi
to say.
in your native language. Referencing back to our older episode.
Yes, we are still using Privet for little support for Ukraine. Still, it's not Danish, it's not Norwegian, it's Ukrainian. But we would love to hear you say hello in your native tongue as well.
The last question from my end was that, like I've referenced, since we've been talking about the planning for the coming year, community is a big focus now, and I was just wondering if you have any colleagues or friends or other groups where you share GTD tips, tricks, practices, tools, systems, whatever you shared. Is it larger groups? Is it bigger groups? What do you discuss? How frequently do you meet? What works well? What doesn't? What have you tried out? Do you have any experience at all with GTD communities, big or small? This is something that we are really going to work on, having a good forum, a good place, a good set of practice in place for the different communities in Denmark, and we really want to do this in the best possible way. So if you have any experience at all, love to hear from you. Podcast@vitallearning.dk is a good email to address that to. Really hope to hear from someone.
DK, yes. Good.
The old one still works, so you can send it.
Yeah, it does. So it's it's no damage, but it's a little stupid for me. continue to say that, but it is like I say that sometimes when I drive somewhere and I suddenly start driving home, it's because the horse want to go home. So I don't have, nobody but me does that.
No, exactly. So everyone head on over to gtdnordic.com to find well, it's a learning.eu, right? That would be a good place to start. Yes. Have a look around different methodologies that we teach, getting things done, crucial conversations, links to the country websites, links to booking Morten and myself for meetings, whatever it might be. You'll find everything on that website. Outside the Nordics, head on over to cruciallearning.com to find your local partners.
Indeed. And we would very much like it if you would like and subscribe. If you're looking at YouTube, please like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. If you are not subscribing on the audio in your podcast app, please do so. It helps us build an audience, and you will get good content. We promise we will do our very best to give you the best GTD content we can. And it also, if you would like to give us a rating on your podcast app of choice, if it has like Apple Podcaster, Spotify, give us a rating that you find suitable. It helps the discoverability of the podcast. So, any last words, Lars, outside this? Do you have something?
No, as always, I hope this was fun, and I hope this was helpful for people to hopefully inspire them to sit down and do some long-term planning of their own and really think forward. And, as always, we typically go broad and we cover a lot of different aspects, show some examples from real life, from our experience with others or with ourselves. And hopefully there were one or two things, or maybe even more, that was helpful for you and inspiring for you to then pick up and make some changes in your life.
Hopefully. Therefore, I will say, as I always do, at the end of every show, stay safe and stay productive. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.